welcome to this live stream, Twitter Space, YouTube Live. I think a little bit everything, and we're super excited to be back in combination with all this Linea community call. We have this kind of like mini Twitter Space live stream, and we want to speak about different topics. But without kind of like starting like what is the topic, what are we speaking today? Let's do a quick round of intro. Cam, you want to start?
Yeah, hi everyone. Cameron, I'm a core contributor at Linea and focusing on decentralization. A lot of my work over the past few years has been in the governance and the DAO space, and that's exactly what I've been working on at Linea. And so excited to kind of chat with the gang here on some of the introductory topics on DAOs and some of our experiences and governance.
Nice. Welcome. Sushmita, you want to go next?
I would like to introduce myself as DevRel engineer, mostly focused on Linea and on content and dev-focused experience, tooling, and more things like that. So nice. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Nice. Yeah, I think you both have such a great kind of like background around, specific governance, DAO governance, and in general, a decentralized product. And yeah, so for the people that doesn't know me, I'm Francesco. I'm also like part of the DevRel team, and yeah, I'm dealing a lot with like developer activation those days. But I'm a big fan of like decentralized on-chain voting and having a stronger community, more active in our, let's say, product and community decisions. And I think this is a great way. And I think like in general, like today we want to speak all about kind of like what's the role in general in Web3 products around decentralization. Obviously, you see what we're advocating a lot around like specific like linear decentralization path, and also like higher level is all about kind of like the social layer, right? And we know there are different type of governance. Maybe we can just give some quick like landscape of how is the governance today before even deeping dive around like the kind of like the role of Linea is playing in it. So let's start with that. Like, what do you think is the landscape today around governance? What is governance itself, and what's the role of the community in it?
Yeah, I would love to jump in. My bad, I'm having fun in the chat, so I'm in there sending some messages. But yeah, look, I think when everybody thinks about decentralization, right? There's really kind of two main types, right? There's kind of two main forms of it. The first one is technical, right? These are things, how many nodes do you have on your network, right? How many sequencers are running? How many provers? How many, X, Y, and Z? This is really a function of, resilient systems, right? A lot of aspects like this. There's also an entire social layer to decentralization, and this is where governance comes into play. So, there's a very big ambiguous word, right? DAOs, right? Decentralized autonomous organizations. That kind of help to shepherd this idea of social decentralization, right? It's all about coordination, coordination of people, right? Coordination of resources and coordination of time, right? How long does it take you to actually do something? And so, when you think about DAOs and governance and decentralization, I want everybody to kind of think of it as the social layer of decentralization, right? How many participants can make a decision? How many participants have technical or admin ownership over certain contracts? I think this is a great way to look at it. Now yell at me if I ramble on here, right? But that's yeah. Okay, perfect. That's how I want us to kind of think about DAOs and governance and decentralization, right? That social aspect, the social layer, decentralization. If you guys look at the Web3 space today, DAOs and governance has really advanced tremendously over the last 2-3+ years. Actually, at Consensus, my first role at Consensus about 2.5-3 years ago, I think, was solely managing DAO governance votes. And so we were actually out there voting MakerDAO and Uniswap and a few other DAOs. When I look back and look at where we are today, it's incredible, right? The technology has advanced from solutions like snapshot and tally, off-chain and on-chain voting. Delegation is kind of at the forefront of governance innovation, right? What are some new ways that we can move our votes around? And we could talk about all these things a little more in depth. And lastly, the thing that I'm so proud of, and one thing that gets me really excited about the future of governance, is the quality of participants, right? The quality of the people actually participating in governance. You have everything from multi-billion-dollar corporations participating to professional delegates. Student blockchain clubs are some of the most fun participants in governance to work with. Protocol-aligned participants, token holders, individuals. And so it's been really, really cool to see. So the quick summary of all that is that I think the space today in governance has come so far. And although we have a long journey ahead of us, the technology's been improving, the participants have been improving. So it's one of the most fun and innovative niches in crypto that you could kind of get involved in.
Yeah, and even the fact that we're speaking about it kind of like, it's such a strong like fact, because sometimes, governance is kind of like the last thing that you're thinking about, right? And that's why like I'm always super excited, with the team, like, we're working a lot around this specific topic, and it's just very exciting also to have this kind of like sub discussion moments around kind of, how people can get more active, how is kind of the governance landscape, and what's the role of Linea in it, right? Maybe like, I didn't want to interrupt Sushmita, although like feel free to jump in. I just want to understand a bit better, like how governance in Web3 kind of like differs to like, governance in let's say in a traditional like Web2 model, right? I think there is a lot of like kind of different things they want to touch about, but what are the kind of like max points that you wanna speak about it?
Yeah, I could jump in there, right? And this is a really good question, right? And just to reiterate it, the question is like, how does governance in Web3, right, and all the things that we're talking about and all the things that we're building, how does that compare to like this traditional aspect of governance? Again, right, guys, like very philosophically, right, at a very high level, governance is a cornerstone, right? Legitimacy is a cornerstone of everything that we do, right? Everywhere we are, the cities we live in, the people we interact with, and so it's been around forever, right? And it's things that we really, really need in order to have functional processes and decision making. In the Web3 space, where it really originated was this idea that we don't want to have centralized control, right? We don't want 5 individuals at the top of an organization making all the decisions on behalf of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, right? So how do we make decisions collectively, right? How do we coordinate, right, decision making collectively in a decentralized environment? And so just thinking about these two things, right? This presents like many problems, right? Some of them again are around coordination, incentives, why and how people participate. How do you actually get them to participate? And these are all things that some of the brightest minds in Web3 are kind of tackling even to this day.
Yeah, you need to definitely like kind of nail down like what's the kind of like incentives for people to be more actively part of this ecosystem and contributing to your roadmap, contributing to specific feedbacks. And I think, as you're saying, there is a lot of different kind of like discussion points or like problems that are kind of like coming up, like compared like let's say Web2 governance system. And I know like Sushmita, you've been involved in a lot of like DAO governance. Like I think what are the benefits as kind of like the community to be part of this? like obviously like I'm a little bit biased because as a users I want to be part of like a product roadmap. I want to be part actively, but I'm sure like you've been part of a lot of those previously. Like what are kind of the benefit that you see like from the other side, right? That being part of the governance is beneficial also for you.
So I've been part of Developer DAO since my early Web3 days. I started my Web3 journey through Developer DAO or DevDAO, however you call it. So I think like one of the best case for builders coming along and joining the DAO is that they can find a community of builders that are ready to build, ready to get taught by others, mentored by others, and like getting help from everyone. So that was one of the things that drew me in there. And I think like it was a really amazing experience for someone who's just getting started. But I think like one of the most challenging part was the governance part, because the participation in governance, this is something that a lot of, like, I think from the early days everyone struggled with that. Like, why do they need to participate in governance? What power do they hold? What changes do we want? And also, like, just like how we moved away from a traditional governance and in this decentralized roadmap and governance, how can we also stop these bad actors also spiraling within this coordinated governance? So all of these things comes up.
100%. Yeah, it's super critical also. I think also for the people like hearing like it's giving the context on how we can contribute, what are the type of like sub-governance kind of contribution you can do. And I think actually it's very I would like to deep dive a little bit more on kind of what are kind of like we touch on incentives, we touch on like particular users or community be part of like a voting system. But both like Sushmita and Cam, like if you need to kind of like divide in sub boxes what is governance for Web3, what will be those boxes today?
I could start on that actually, right? And I think like when you think about kind of governance and DAOs and protocols and all of these things, Shushmita said it wonderfully, right? Which is, finding all of those like-minded community members who have a stake in the success of what they're participating in, and then working collectively, right, in a distributed fashion to kind of push this thing forward, right? And I think a big piece of what governance is community, right? Is the participants, whether that's protocols on your network, whether that's researchers, whether that's risk managers, right? There's so many different categories, but they could all kind of fall under this thing of community. We said for a long time at Linea and at Consensus, right? As Consensus is rapidly decentralizing, right? We're looking at, all the products and all the teams and kind of fundamentally, right? What is governance? And we always fall back on this idea of community, right? So one thing that we always say is that governance is only as good as its community, right? It's only as strong as its participants. Exactly that, right? Community is governance. Governance is the community.
Love it. And I think so many kind of like, I see always like how communities can actively participate to product roadmaps, to kind of like feedbacks in shaping, strategically how the project need to kind of like evolve. And I think, governance is literally like what is kind of like putting everything together. And I think like we should speak much more about it. And but in the same time, I know also like in general, like especially like not specific on DAOs, but in different project, there are always challenges, right? How to effectively implement a governance model, how to effectively like implement kind of like incentives specific for the community, like without kind of like touching on what are those effective implementation mechanisms. Like what do you think are kind of like the key challenge today generalized for like Web3 project when they are implementing like an efficient like governance? Like I can go first and saying sometimes like there is not enough experience to push this governance mechanism, because sometimes the community have in mind kind of like different models. But what do you think are kind of like the key challenges or like pain points today around governance models?
Shashmita, if you want to take that one first, then I'll follow up on you.
I think there are a lot of, I mean, in my case, I think, like we can probably start from the part like the different types of governance, like token based, delegation based, and like what are the other government types called, where you can give more weighting more into the governance based on the amount of token you hold.
Like a weighting model.
Yeah. I think those all comes into play, and like I think identifying like which types of governance goes with your community is one of the challenges, because I mean, just like I mentioned earlier, there could be bad actors coming in and just taking advantage of these models that are not probably suitable for the community. But when we have all of that, it things, and like when like community is the governance, of course, but also we need to make sure that we are creating a better experience for the community, for them to come in and taking out all this. I think I'll just hand it over to Cam.
That's a great. That's that point is spot on, right? Which is like you may hear the great governance philosophers talk about how governance is actually a security function, right? And it absolutely is, right? It's how many different participants and at what cost, right? Can you update a network, right? Can you update contracts? Can you move funds? Because in a distributed system, right? In distributed decision making, trying to coordinate these actors, right? You don't want it to be as easy as possible, right? Or then again, right? You find yourselves in the midst of certain threats. I think over my years in governance, right? There's a few things that pop off the page, which is, and actually, I think a lot of protocols, L2s, right? Even Linea, I think we've streamlined this over the years, but kind of like what you mentioned, Francesco, which is, the technical acumen of what the decisions are on, right? It's very difficult for the average participant to understand ZKs and risk management and debt ceilings, and the list goes on. It's crazy. It really is. It's nuts. And so I think that's one thing. The other thing that we found early on, because remember in this very large experiment, right, we started with like, hey, let's try to govern everything, right? Every parameter and every social decision, salaries, go to market, billboards, you name it. What we found early on was that there was something that we had, which was like voter empathy, right? Or apathy, which is voters get tired of voting, right? It ends up becoming more than a full-time job at many organizations. And so it's been really cool and fun to kind of see what decisions are being made and when and how they're being made. A big trend in governance right now is to make it easier, right? A shorter process when it comes to how do you pass a decision. These are all things that I think at Linea over the course of the last year, when we were thinking about governance, these are all kind of things that we took into consideration, right? Which is fundamentally rooted in security for the network, for the users, community involvement, right? Some of these hardships that governance participants might have faced. A few things that we're excited about is, token holders and governance participants, they'll play a major role in the future of Linea, right? So whether that's voting and aligning on protocol upgrades, right, that are mainly driven by a set of core devs, that by the way, right, the core devs on Linea won't just be Linea, right? So we're actually onboarding some of the most OG dev teams in the space to kind of come on and work on the tech stack, right? So protocol upgrades, right? Token holders will have a big say in aligning on the spending of resources, right? Or managing a treasury. Protocol governance participants will have a big part and a large role in, as well as kind of managing the overall governance process, right? And trying to align on a set of goals, right? A North Star, if you would, and trying to participate, pushing forward all participants and the network towards that North Star. So, we're really excited to have a pretty streamlined governance process with a lot of autonomy, right? Again, if you're participating in Linea governance, you will have a voice, right? You will have a say. Your decisions will matter, and so it's pretty exciting.
That's super exciting. And I also want to touch on when you're saying that sometimes, voters are getting tired. Like, I think that's definitely like a big challenge. Like, I remember back in the days, people were contributing to 10 different DAOs. And at the end, you really lose the picture, right? And I think it's very important for like decentralized DAO governance in general, like is trying to attribute a voting weight. Could be based on like token holding, could be based on different things, but giving like OGs or giving like someone that is contributing more any kind of like any history with the project and higher voting power, I think it's also like very, very relevant. And I think that's probably like the most important like side of the medal that you wanna push in order to kind of like activate the right community members, like because as you're saying, like you
Shashmia, did he freeze for you?
Yeah,
like
he did.
Go for it. And I mean, and also like speaking a little bit, you touched a little bit, Cam, on that, but now let's deep dive a little bit more on the Linea side, right? We kind of like touch on governance, Web3 versus kind of like Web2, what are kind of like the critical challenges around that. But how kind of like Linea support decentralized governance frameworks today? Like, I just want to touch on this and also like asking what kind of like the features that Linea makes it like a kind of like a strong enabler for DAOs and kind of like other governance systems.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, my bad, I was looking for an emoji in the chat. I think, I think two things, right? Well, where I'd like to start is kind of, if you're a protocol or a builder on Linea, some things that you should be aware of in terms of governance and the tools available on the Linea network. So we have all major infrastructure operational on the Linea network. These are tools that many of us who have ever made a vote, right? We've probably used, even if we're making votes not in protocols, right, or not in DAOs. Just in Web3 in general, right? We often use these tools. These are things like Snapshot, right? Which is technically considered off-chain voting, right? That's what we call non-executable governance. Snapshot is kind of a core to all things DAO, right? So you could find that on Linea. Some other cool frameworks are things like governor contracts. These are on-chain governance. So this is when protocols want to decentralize, right? When they want their decisions to be executed on chain, right? They kind of work and implement it at a contract level. And so we have some really great examples of protocols working towards, this level of decentralization, right? Things like Mendy, things like Zero Lend, right? Our friends at Turtle Club are now exploring governance and even more. And so it's been really fun to kind of work with protocols, work with users, work with all participants and all stakeholders on Linea to ensure that they have the right tooling, the right information to decentralize. So that's kind of this broad view of like, what do we have on the network? How can protocols or what tools can they use, right? Very, very high level. I think when we kind of dig in a little bit and we think about like the Linea network as a whole, again, how kind of we did this a little bit different is we started thinking about governance by thinking about the voters, right? And the token holders and the participants and the protocols. Often governance is kind of this last ditch effort, right? After you work on the technical aspects and after you work on kind of the go-to-market and things like this, you kind of just put governance in on the end. And we've spent 6, 9, even maybe even more than 9 months kind of talking to protocols and talking to users and talking to governance professionals, right? A lot of the folks, right? If you're listening, we've had so many great conversations, and we really tried to address a lot of these problems that we see in governance, and a lot of them are around rights for token holders, right? A lot of them are around autonomy for token holders. A lot of them are around what token holders can and can't do. And so the structure of governance at Linea really aims to empower users, right? Which again, I think philosophically, right, all governance tries to do this, right? Whether you're at a protocol or an L2, but at Linea, right, we're really hoping to kind of push forward this model and start at the very beginning, once governance launches, to start and have token holders have a real say from day one. And so, these are kind of some of the philosophical aspects of how we approached designing governance. And that's why, right, day one, token holders will have, a say in the protocol upgrades, right? They will have a say in how the foundation or pardon me, the association is actually ran and governed, right? These are things that, frankly speaking, I could not find an example of, right? Which is, how do we give token holders the ability to interact in the real world, right? These are some of the things that we're exploring on a large scale. Sorry, I'm rambling, but yeah, right. It's very exciting, focusing in on those token holders.
And I think also, like, you make kind of like a community that is much more engaged. Sounds good.
Oh wait, Francisco, we lost you there. What did you say?
Oh no, I was just saying that this is how you're getting your community much more like, engaged and active with the future narrative. And it's extremely relevant because if I'm thinking about, the time that we invested in building, could be Web2 stacks, running hackathons, like one way that you can engage with the community is just asking feedbacks. But this time, when you establish like a true kind of decentralized Web3 governance, you can actually ask much more, as you're saying, right? Like protocol upgrades, budgeting decision, could be even like, where we want to activate and how deep dive you want to go in terms of like, your substream of activities around the company. And at the end of the day, I think also, and we see that in our team, that, shipping content is not like a work only from a team, right? Like people want to contribute, want to co-host, want to co-write with you. And I think that's really establishing and unleashing the power of community.
Dude, I love that you said that, right? Which is, as we were talking to governance participants, right, and protocols and users and all these people, a basic theme that came up was like autonomy, right? Like they want to be able to make a difference. They also want to be able to believe that they're making a difference, right? And the only way to like truly believe that is for us to enable that. And so, the cool part is that almost anything that we could think of and see in governance, right? There should be a path for token holders to accomplish, right? Whether that's a community grants program, right? Grants for research, whether that's working groups directly with the association and the core developers of the Linea stack, right? I think involving the community early on is something really important to us. And, not only from a social perspective, but also from a technical side, right? Like Linea is open source Apache models. So today, right, if you're a skilled ZK engineer and you want to contribute, you can literally go do that, right? Following the Apache model. So it's very fascinating to kind of see and experience, all these things that token holders can do. But if there is something that we're not sure if token holders can do it, can they do it? How do we actually get there, right? There'll be working groups from day one, right? With different industry professionals, association professionals, large token holders, to try to figure out, again, how do we empower token holders? How do we maintain the security of the system? And how do we evangelize the Linea technology?
Yes. And I think also like the instrument are key, right? Like people that know me know I'm a big, like, let's say on-chain kind of like fan. Like what I'm seeing here is also with like there is a lot of efforts being on-chain identity. There is a lot of efforts, like you can, create your like Linea profile on ENS today. You can do like literally all your
Dude.
contribution are on chain. But what me excite me, you can start, spending with your MetaMask card on Linea. There is so many cool things that you can do, and this tooling is extremely important. And I mean, speaking actually about on-chain identity, like how we can envision on-chain identity like being spun into kind of this governance discussion. Like I mean, obviously, like snapshot, there is a lot of different tooling, but I think we can do it's so tight up, right? Like the kind of like on-chain Linea profile in future governance. Maybe you want to touch a little bit on that.
Yeah. And I think a key pillar of Linea, just generally speaking, right, is kind of how do we advance identity? So we've had some like incredible solutions over the past years, or we've had incredible contributors working on solutions. Things like pushing forward the attestation space, right? Experimenting with new things that you can do and that you can't do. Implementing and open sourcing ENS subdomain names, right? The resolution of those on layer 2s. Even like things that are just so cool to see, which are kind of, the use of ENS subdomain names that are tied to NFTs, right? And I think the eFrogs have done this, and it's really, really cool, right? So using CCIP read, every NFT comes with a subdomain name, right? And as that gets transferred or bought and sold, your subdomain name moves with it. And so, identity is a very broad topic, right? I think what most people do is they immediately look at identity and they think, it's about having a doxed persona, right? It's about who am I and what do I look like and, what do I do and, all these different things. I actually think the opposite, right? I think identity is more than just that. Identity is kind of what makes you, but on chain, right? And so through the use of ZK technology, through the use of attestations, all different really creative solutions, right? It's not about you being doxed and you being identifiable and seen, unless you want that, right? It's really about what makes you on chain, right? What can we confirm about you on chain? What attestations? What do you like to do? What are you good at? These types of things. And so, again, generally speaking, it's a core pillar of what Linea is, right? How do we advance this? In governance, right, we have so many cool solutions with identity. A few of them for any participants. Oh, pardon me. Wait, sorry. I'm just checking chat here. Okay, yeah, good.
I'm so excited to see all this chat is warming up so much. I just want to stay here and speak about 2 hours about this.
Wait, yeah, I know. Wait, I'll be really quick, I promise. But right, like for anybody who's a delegate, right, or anything like this, what we see is that like you're fractured when it comes to like delegate profiles, right? You have to sign up on this platform, you sign up on that platform, maybe the protocol has its own platform, right? It's just like crazy, right? Like even myself, right? Every forum, every discourse, like at one point in time, I think I had something like 20 different profiles across forums and sites and this and that. And so one thing that we've actually spec'd out is putting your governance profile in an ENS subdomain, right? And having all of that information live open sourced at a network level, right? So not at an application layer where it's very fractured, but we said, hey, what if we just put this on at a network level? So anywhere you go, right? Any protocol you use or any technology you use, any platform you use, right? You should be able to have this information come with you. And this is another really interesting piece about identity, which is, can you take these things with you as you move platform to platform, right? So they're not siloed. And so, again, right, we've worked long and hard to spec all these ideas out. And, eventually we will work that into a roadmap.
Yeah, I'm so excited about kind of like this future innovation, governance, and how we can bring more people on chain, and kind of like making everyone part of this kind of like greater journey on technical decision, business decision, on specific kind of like angles. And I think this is kind of like the future. And a little bit speaking about, because I know this is so like cool, this discussion, I see a bunch of like chats happening. We are kind of like over time, but I just want to kind of like close with like one general question, speak about, I'm not a future, let's say, person. I just want to understand 6 to 12 months, right? Like which kind of like trends and innovation you see in general like Web3 governance, and if you can share a little bit more on the Linea side, only if you can't or want, if you can or want, right? But definitely, I'm interested in understanding more how communities today can really be more active. Obviously, it cannot be like kind of like a full-time job in governance, feedbacking kind of like products. But what are the trends and kind of innovation that you guys see around Web3 governance coming out in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I could jump on there really quick, which is right, and I think Linea's kind of announced all this, and so token coming Q1, right? Utility token. Lots of different utilities, but one of those key or one of the key functions will be technical and social governance.
Yep.
And so, what I see as kind of a major trend moving forward in governance is streamlined governance processes.
Yep.
Right. I think streamlined scope of governance. Ensuring that it's not a full-time job, right? Ensuring that participants are aligned. I think all these things are very important to have a sustainable governance model. From like a tooling and an innovation perspective, there's just been tremendous work out in the ecosystem around, pushing forward like pretty ambiguous topics like futarchy, right? Pushing forward research and different means and methods of actually voting and distributed decision making. And kind of the tooling that's advanced alongside of it, right? Some of the greatest governance tooling in our space, Tally, Agora, Snapshot, and the list goes on, right? Anybody that I didn't get to mention, these protocols I've been building for 4+ years, right? In a space that, I think they took a big risk on, and finally now where governance is evolving past its, very infantile stages. Seeing these protocols develop has just been a fascinating experience. And so, streamlined experiences, right? Autonomy, having a true voice, and the advancement of tooling are kind of all things that I'm excited about.
On my side, I think I'm more excited about the more builder ecosystem type of stuff.
Yep.
Like apart from governments, because I see a lot of toolings in there and maybe like we might have more things that are on Linea focused and like identity focused. So yeah.
I think identity focus is a big one, and I think definitely that's super exciting how we bring more, let's say, user contributing like on chain with kind of like their own true identity, and people can finally contribute like and having some kind of like track record. Because my biggest pain sometimes like in terms of like on-chain voting is kind of like this track record is how do you say is recognized in the community. I think this is something that we underestimate, like even like on the builder side. Sushmita, what you're saying is top notch, right? Bringing also like more builders that are actually like Linea is a platform where people can really show what they're building to the world. It's kind of like, and I think this is very important. That's what we're trying always to do. Like, every kind of like hackathon winner, anyone building top cool dApps in the Linea ecosystem is also like able to come and present at the community call, like getting grants. Like, I think that's kind of key. And this engagement is something that that is the big value proposition why people are sticking around, right? And I think especially on kind of like builder kind of like ecosystem accessibility. Like I think everybody of us is trying to be accessible to everyone, not just in ecosystem events, but if I'm sending you like a Twitter DM at 2 a.m. for some Linea testnet token, you guys are there, you answer me, right? Like I think accessibility is a key part of the game here. So that's it, right? This is what I'm excited about, and I definitely like exciting also like to see what we want to talk more about. I think governance was one big of kind of like this small chapter. I'm definitely exciting to also like speak about more like linear incentives, contribution around that, and I think we are planning to do more of this session. I think seeing also those comments and how people are excited about it, I think definitely we should do this more. That's exciting, and we're preparing also much more like conversation around that. And any closing words, how people can contribute today to the Linea ecosystem? I kind of like mentioned a little bit already, but how people can contribute, Cam and Sushmita?
Yeah. I think Lucas, the first thing is like keep building, right? Keep exploring, keep building, keep building communities, building protocols, right? Finding new ways to kind of leverage the tech, I think is one thing we're super excited about. We have boots on the ground 24/7, right? Whether it's our wonderful DevRel group, the core Linea team, it's really about just kind of building on, right? Continuing that from a contribution perspective, from a technical side, and from like a social side. We've actually started and will continue to kind of post all of our designs for decentralization, including governance, on the Linea forum, right? And so keep your eyes out for that. You're going to be able to give direct feedback into a lot of these aspects of governance, right? You're going to be able to learn a lot about the decisions we've made, and your comments are taken super seriously, right? And so keep your eye out for that. It's all about kind of building this together, right? It's not about us closing the door and saying, we're going to come out in 6 months with solutions, right? It's kind of about us opening that door and saying, here are our ideas. Come comment, come participate, come contribute to those.
Amazing.
I'm just definitely wanting people to check out this one. That's really cool. The proposal here on the Linea community Discord.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It really is. And like, there's so many posts that we're planning to kind of put out there, from go to marketing, from go to market to governance to ideas and research. Keep your eyes out for it.
Awesome.
Amazing. I think like from the builder's perspective, I would like to mention that everything from Linea side is open sourced. So you can really contribute to any issues or anything that you want to solve right there. So yeah, would love to say that.
Yes, agree. It's definitely exciting. We just came from a big week of DevCon and ETH Global. We saw so much excitement also about specific use case being built on top of Linea, and there is a lot of things to do, and there is a lot of community engagement that we definitely are pushing, but also we want to hear more and more the community. I think our DM are always open, right? Like if you have feedbacks about specific either topics you want to contribute in a specific way that even we don't know about, always our door are open. Cool, awesome. So thank you so much also Cam and Sushmita for your time. I think that's super exciting, and we're definitely coming back with more topics. And thanks to everyone also that commented on the chat. We will follow up with some links. And until further, notice, thanks everyone, and see you till next time.